After wrapping up the nearly $2 trillion stimulus relief plan and quickly getting payments out to more than 130 million Americans already, President Biden is now setting his sights on a $3 trillion economic relief proposal that's heavy on infrastructure. He's visiting Pittsburgh tomorrow to unveil the plan. Now, the president's popularity, it's dipped, but he's still getting approval ratings in the mid-50s, 15 points overall above water. Plus, new numbers from ABC News show that more than 7 in 10 Americans approve of Biden's handling when it comes to COVID, 3/4 happy with the vaccine distribution, 6 in 10 approving of his handling of the economy. But the news not so good when you look at his handling of gun violence and the situation at the border, underwater in both of those issues. Biden certainly multitasking, facing a slew of major challenges. I didn't even mention the battle over voting rights in this country, which could lead to a historical pivot point. I want to bring in my next guest to discuss Washington Post op-ed columnist Dana Milbank. And Dana, $3 trillion with a T, and I think as big as the goals of that are, is how they're overt as to who's paying for it, the folks who didn't pay in the last 4 years. And next month they're talking about what he calls a generational plan when it comes to climate change. My question is, I know they believe in these ideas. Do they believe they can get them through, or they figure no harm, no foul, why not take a shot?
Well, Richard, I think it depends on the issue. What the Biden administration is doing is, I think, first going for more of the low-hanging fruit, things that are popular. Spending money on COVID, very popular. Spending money on infrastructure, very popular. The idea is to build up political capital. And then he'll have some. People won't have been tearing him down when it's time in a little bit to deal with the border, with gun violence, with things that are always far more controversial and where he's not going to get the kind of numbers that he has on COVID. So I think he's learned something from the Obama administration, sort of getting bogged down in the healthcare debate quickly, as opposed to doing more economic stimulus. So we see a huge amount of stimulus with the COVID package, and an even larger amount with the infrastructure package. Now, of course, if you're a deficit hawk, you're alarmed about this entire thing and worried about overheating the economy. But I don't think there are any deficit hawks anymore. The Republicans will now claim to be, but they've kind of lost all credibility on that during the Trump years.
Dana, he seems, though, more than this is where I think we get America back on its feet. He's, to me at least, overtly saying, hey, if you're middle class or even doing worse, I'm going to be sticking it to the other guys here who have been doing pretty good between the tax cuts and everything else. They're going to be paying for it. That doesn't just seem to be a sidebar. That seems to be part of what I guess they believe is a selling point to it.
I think it is. I mean, look, there is a strong populist theme going on in this country. We saw it in a harmful way under Trump. But, the Democratic message of sort of soak the rich is indeed quite a popular one. Certain aspects of it, the wealth tax may not fly in public opinion, but certainly the idea of the rich paying their fair share is broadly popular, is often even popular among the rich. So I think there's only upside in taking that approach. It's not the same idea as talking about redistribution of the wealth. That's a sure loser. And then you have Republicans talking about socialism. But this goes for middle and lower income voters out there. And there's been just an extraordinary amount of change in the tax burden already from the COVID relief, the child tax credit, just some really extraordinary changes going on that's almost under the radar.
I want to play a soundbite for folks who didn't hear it. Our former president called into Fox News. This is what he said about what happened in the riots on January 6th.
It was a zero threat. Right from the start, it was zero threat. Look, they went in. They shouldn't have done it. Some of them went in and they're hugging and kissing the police and the guards. They're persecuting a lot of those people.
Okay, I don't get to be, nor does anyone shocked anymore by what he says or even Republican reaction, but These people were hunting the Congress people. They wanted to hang Mike Pence. Are you even surprised that Republican leadership is still going and getting along with somebody talking about hugs and kisses and persecuted people, who were there, literally who killed cops?
Right. I mean, if by hugs and kisses he means they're being beaten with poles and hit with pepper spray and fire extinguishers and other projectiles, then absolutely those were hugs and kisses. Isn't it so pleasant, Richard, that we don't actually have to hear such nonsense on a daily basis from Donald Trump anymore? The Twitter guns are silent, and of course he'll get the odd interview here, and he's going to keep saying the same sorts of divisive nonsense that he was saying previously. But the best part is we really don't have to listen to it. Republicans have been Trumpified in many ways, but nobody. With the exception of a Marjorie Taylor Greene, nobody with the kind of platform that Donald Trump has is saying anything near as insane right now.
Unless your wedding's in Florida and he crashes it like he did this past weekend, but I digress. Voting rights. If you can you lay out for my audience the stakes of what's happening, not just in Georgia, but seemingly in a whole bunch of other states, but also what's being discussed at the federal level in terms of who gets to vote, how hard we're going to make it potentially for some people to vote. People throw around Jim Crow here, but in this case, I don't think it's hyperbole.
No, I mean, look, this has been building for really a few decades, and what's happened is it's gotten more and more overt. Maybe 5 to 8 years ago, the Supreme Court essentially invalidated key parts of the Voting Rights Act, so it really has been open season. Nothing quite so audacious as Georgia, and what they've just done, which is even saying, hey, you can't hand out ponchos to people in line if it's raining or water if it's hot. Very clearly trying to suppress minority voters because, of course, they keep closing polling stations in minority voting areas, which is why they have the long lines in the first place. So it's so flagrant that I think it catches people's attention, and it shows a certain acknowledgement among the Republicans that if everybody does come out and vote, as we just saw in 2020, the Republicans aren't going to win, so they need to stop the other side from voting. So I think that bit has become more transparent, and that will increase, I think, some pressure on the Democrats in the Senate to say, all right, well, we've got to do something about voting rights, and will they, in fact, try to ease or abolish the filibuster to do so? I don't think that time is now, but the Republicans are making quite a good case for it.
Dana, as always, thank you for the time. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Richard. Appreciate it.
After the break, our next installment of So Right, They're Wrong. And this edition focuses on America's not-so-favorite family, the Trumps. The Donald, still crashing weddings and still writing, well, some really weird stuff. And Eric, he's got a whole lot of daddy issues. We'll be right back.